Brian Billick in the 4 o'clock hour. Dave in Secaucus. What's up, Dave?
Hey, Mike. How you doing?
Good. What's happening?
I'm going to give you my thank you speech, and then I got a question about who your most heated caller was. I have an idea. I want to see if you remember. So I'm 32. I don't think you think you know how much you reach out to our demographics.
Well,
I think you might
do.
reach out to the older callers.
No,
the guys who were around in
the
the 80s.
Francesa con is all young people. That's why I really have seen that a lot with those things like that. Thousands of people in that, and they're all young. They really are. So I've seen a lot of that in recent years.
Yeah, I think the 28, late 20s to mid 30s. We grew up with you too.
Yes.
Even before the split with dogs. So you were authentic. But I wanted to ask you a question about a caller.
Yeah.
In my opinion, the most heated call was that FanDuel, whether it was gambling or not, a few years ago. Do you remember that one? The guy was on for like 25 minutes, and after a little while, you just said, "That's gambling," and you screamed it out. I mean, the guy was convinced that FanDuel and whatnot wasn't gambling.
Yeah. Yeah, and he was, whoever it was, he was wrong. I mean, because I mean, it is so much gambling that everyone has. I mean, even if they don't admit it publicly, they admit it privately. It's gambling. I mean, come on, nothing is more pure gambling than fantasy sports. You are wagering on a lineup. There are so many things you can't control that it's gambling. Chess is a game of skill. They try to tell you that fantasy is a game of skill, except there are so many things that are beyond your control. If you have a chessboard, they don't come over and say, "Oh, your bishop's got a hamstring pull. He's out the rest of the game." Or, your rook got thrown out of the game in the third inning for arguing. Or it wasn't your it wasn't your knight's day, so he left the game in the second inning. Weather, calls, luck. So many different things that enter into it that don't enter into a game of skill, which would what chess would be, versus what they do, which is completely gambling. You have no control over it. And their whole basis was, well, as long as there's something that can be wagered on that isn't impacted by the final score, then it's not gambling. That is so ridiculous. Horse racing is built on that, on things that are not based on who won the race. They're based on who finished second, third, fourth, fifth, triples, exactas, superfectas, etc. So, it's always been pari-mutuel wagering, which is what fantasy is. It's what their whole thing is based on that. Charlie and Comac, what's up, Charlie?
Hey, Mike. In regard to your, I really enjoyed your interview with Riley-Frazier a couple weeks back, just before Thanksgiving.
Yes.
And two things I took out of it that I thought were important was, number one, I really that he was supposed to meet with Frank Midelinka, I think a short while after that interview.
Right.
So that was about, I think that would be important for Frank's growth, just to obviously touch base with the best point guard the Knicks have ever had. But the thing that really struck me was how Phil Jackson, a friend of his on his team, back in '69 and '73, never picked his brain to, speak about the nuances of the team.
Not only that, think about what Phil Jackson's role was on that team, and think about what Wolf Frazier's role was on that great Knick team, and to think that he could come to this franchise and never consult Frazier about anything to do with the basketball team, when that guy was really the glue that held that great Knick team together.
And you want to know, it really, you heard it in Clyde's voice, like
it bothered him.
Perplexed.
It bothered him. See,
really
he understood why Riley didn't do it. Riley was jealous of him. Riley never got over the fact that he was a sub in the pros and was brought in the game to give a foul, was brought in the game to play some defense, and a guy like Frazier bothered him because he wasn't as good as Frazier. So you can see where Riley wasn't going to give Frazier his due, but because he was a Laker and he guarded him and he was an adversary. That's how Riley thinks. That's what makes Riley tick. But
no, I'm with you on that.
But for Jackson, it made no sense. It made absolutely
and all the accolades that Clyde even spoke about, like he was a deep thinker and, he was very, Anyway, that really really left an impression with me, because that just shows to the pompousness of Phil Jackson that he knew. He was above.
Phil has changed. Phil changed. Yeah, Phil was above anything at that point. It was almost like he was in a different world, and he was so far above it that he didn't even know what was going on down there. That's how far above it he was. Mike in Jersey, what's up, Mike?
Hey, Mike, how are you? I just wanted to tell you I'm gonna miss you. Our friend's gonna miss you. We saw you a bunch at Bar A. My uncle, my buddy Miz had your picture on his shirt every year. We're gonna miss you. Love your passion. Your passion for what you do is what makes you great, and what makes all the great baseball players, football players I've always loved watching fun to watch. My big question for you is the Giants, the GM search. Probably gonna be Gettleman.
It's probably going to be Gettleman.
Familiarity with the organization, is that now? I want to know you, Mike Francesa. Is that where you would go? Do you have an option where you would go for GM and coach if you were in charge of that right now with the Giants?
I would go younger for the general manager. I no knock on Gettleman. He's in his 60s. I think he's very tired in his ways. I like the idea of the younger, brighter GM mind that's been schooled here. I think there are guys in the league that you could go to that are younger, that would be here longer, that you hopefully can get a guy who lasts a generation. That's the only knock I would have on Gettleman. Gettleman's won this job his whole life. There's no question. I think he was kind of stunned the way things went down in Carolina after he helped build a good Carolina team. Then he made some mistakes in the secondary, clearly, but yeah, I think he was stunned by what happened. So I think he's a guy that's not a heavy risk. I don't think it's like he's going to, really be a hard guy to adjust to. I think he'll be very much a stable pick. Might not be the home run pick, but he's going to be a stable pick. As far as who he picks for coach, that's a whole different deal. I mean, that's really open to a lot of debate, because remember, when you you're not going to pick most likely you're not going to go get the proven coach. And I don't want a Super Bowl coach, because as I've said to people many times, I would not hire someone who's won the Super Bowl. And you say, why? I'll tell you why. Because history shows it doesn't work. No one has gone to another team and won a Super Bowl. No one. Mike Holmgren came close. Bill Parcells came close. There were guys who lost in their first go-around, went to the Super Bowl and lost, then came back and won with other teams. Vermeil did that. Don Shula did that. But no one left after winning their first one and won a Super Bowl anywhere else. And part of the George Young theory, which Damaris espoused to, is that you want someone who's got something to prove. Guys who have won Super Bowls don't have as much to prove. They can come back. They come back with a name. They also get a lot of money, but none of them have won. And a lot of them that have come back the second time have really flopped. So I would much rather get a guy who's hungry on the way up than to get a guy who's already accomplished it and put him in the job. Now, there's a couple of guys that, I would be interested in. Like, if I could pick a coach, I would be really interested in the Stanford coach. He's never been in the NFL before. He is a very sound, solid guy. And John Shaw, I don't know. I don't know if Shaw would come here. He's a guy who's turned down a lot of jobs. I don't know if he really, he's a guy who was under Harbaugh. He's taken over Stanford, done a great job there. Very solid coach, plays very solid football, plays kind of a little bit old-fashioned football. They like to run the ball, like to play with power. Has also developed quarterbacks, though. So done a very good job in that regard. But I don't know that he has any interest, because, he's really stayed away from coming to the NFL in the past. He'd interest me. More so, now, Harbaugh is not a Giant. He's just, first of all, he's just not cut from what the Giants would want. Number two, he makes an incredible amount of money. So from that standpoint, I don't see it happening from that standpoint. So there's a lot of guys, and then you're into the assistants. And once you're into the assistants, it's very tricky. Like, I don't think the Giants would ever hire someone who'd been with the Jets, so that leaves a Mangini out. But Mangini's a guy that I think if anyone ever gives him another chance, he'll have learned his lesson, and I really think he'll be very good. But I don't know that anyone will give him another chance. You know, he got that second time too quickly. He wanted to get back on the wheel after the first time, and he did, but he went to a place where it was completely a mess, and it cost him. And usually you don't get 3 shots, and you got to make good with the second shot. You got to make it the right shot. Anyone can miss on the first shot. We know that. I mean, it can happen. Circumstances can get in your way, so a lot of things can happen. But I would not. I'd be very careful with that, as a matter of fact. So there's a lot of ways to go, but when you're going with assistants and you're trying to track coordinators and think whether they're going to be good head coaches or not, very iffy situation. For as many that do, there's as many as fail. So that is probably one of the most unproven things you can do in football, is to go get a coordinator and put him in as your head coach, because you really, it's no more than a 50-50 at best proposition. Here's the Mink Man.